The scent of fresh lumber and drywall promised a home, but I never got to feel it. I'd walked the skeleton of my dream house, watched plumbers weave pipes like arteries, and imagined my future kids' crayon scribbles on the walls. The day I was set to move in, though, I found a muddy pit, splintered beams, shattered glass, and a chunk of drywall bearing my dog's paw print, a cruel relic of a life I'd almost had. My lot sat just outside the grip of Crestview Estates HOA, a smug enclave where nonconformity was a crime. Paint your mailbox purple, and their neighborhood watch would have you in cuffs by sundown. My land was free, independent, exactly how I wanted it. Construction had been smooth. Permits cleared, inspections passed, my contractor Nate a pro. The final sign-off came 2 weeks early, and I planned a Saturday move-in, maybe a barbecue to christen the deck. Then, 5 days before, a letter arrived, official-looking but cheap, like it came from a budget printer with a knockoff seal. Crestview Estates HOA called my house an unsafe, derelict structure, a community blight subject to emergency remediation under some vague clause. I laughed, then reread it. Derelict? The paint wasn't even dry, and I wasn't under their jurisdiction. I called the listed number, got voicemail for Linda Harper, Community Standards Chair. Naturally, her name was Linda. I left a comm message, followed by an email with my deed, survey, and permits. Overkill, but I wasn't taking chances. The next day, driving to meet my landscaper, I spotted her. Late 50s, platinum pixie cut, coral blazer, strutting across my dirt drive in heels that screamed midlife crisis. Linda Harper, gesturing wildly to a guy in a hard hat next to a bulldozer. I pulled over, heart pounding. "What's going on?" I asked, voice sharp. She turned, her smile so saccharine it could rot teeth. "Mr. Bennett, we're addressing this safety hazard." "Like hell you are." I shot back, stepping in front of the machine. "This is my land. You have no authority." Her smile hardened. "Our records say otherwise." "Your records are garbage," I said, waving a folder I'd started carrying like a talisman. "Deed, permits, everything." The bulldozer guy froze, unsure. Linda snapped, "Proceed as instructed." He didn't budge. I pulled out my phone, hit record, and watched her lips purse as she retreated, muttering about non-compliance. I called Nate, my lawyer Rachel Cohen, and the police. The dispatcher yawned. "Civil matter. File a report if there's damage." Damage came. I barely slept, scouring property law forums like a paranoid scholar. At 6 a.m., I drove to the lot and nearly crashed. My house was gone, reduced to a soggy graveyard of lumber, glass, and insulation bleeding into the mud. A porch light flickered in the muck, mocking me. A sign stood proud. "Unsafe structure removed, Crestview Estates HOA." I stumbled out of my truck, trembling. The sun wasn't up, but the birds were, their chirps a sick contrast to my scream. I gathered debris, splinters, a warped light fixture, like evidence of a murder. The cop who showed up after my third call looked at me like I was raving. "Got proof it was new?" he asked, as if the rubble wasn't enough. I shoved my folder at him. He skimmed it with DMV clerk urgency. "Problem is, Linda Harper submitted photos showing a dilapidated shack here last month. Says you're squatting, claiming adverse possession." I gaped. "A shack? I built this from scratch." But the narrative was set. I wasn't a homeowner. I was a trespasser with a fairy tale. Rachel, a fireball of a lawyer, was furious. "They're dirty," she said, dissecting Linda's HOA packet, obtained through a rogue board member. "Here's the issue. A city land use map lists your lot as part of Crestview. That gives them jurisdiction." I choked. My title was clear of any HOA. "This map's new, dated 3 months ago," she said. We hit the county records office, expecting chaos but finding a sterile setup and a clerk, Ethan Walsh, with a too-slick smile. "Show us parcel 52C, Rachel demanded. Ethan screen spun. "My lot, highlighted, labeled Crestview Estates Annex. That wasn't in my closing docs," I said. Ethan shrugged. "Updates happen post-close." Rachel's eyes narrowed. "Who approved this rezoning?" Ethan stammered. "It's proprietary. Crestview's planning board." Rachel leaned in. "If I subpoena this office, will I find your name on those forms?" Ethan bolted to check something. He didn't return. Public records revealed the scam. Mismatched signatures, overlapping dates, a backdated rezoning referencing a non-existent Crestview Phase 3. They'd rewritten history. I set up trail cams around the lot's remains. Rachel warned they'd return. 2 nights later, a black SUV crept up at midnight. A figure in a hoodie circled the debris, flashlight in hand, then vanished. No plates, but the SUV was distinctive. Rachel's jaw dropped at the footage. That's Ethan's car. This wasn't just Linda's vendetta, it was a conspiracy. 3 days later, my lot was fenced off. Chain link, padlocks, signs screaming danger. Unstable ground and property seized by Crestview HOA. 2 security goons in a sedan smirked as I gripped the wire, ready to ram it with my truck. "You're trespassing," one sneered. "I own this," I growled. "Not per the directive," he said, flashing a clipboard. The sheriff's deputy, barely old enough to shave, sighed. "It's civil. I can't touch the fence without a court order." My inbox overflowed with HOA fines, $175 daily for land misuse and aesthetic damage, totaling $900. Linda went public, telling Channel 9 my abandoned ruin bred crime and rats, painting herself as the neighborhood savior. I was the villain, the squatter defying Crestview's purity. A manila envelope slid under my apartment door that night. Inside, a USB and a note. "You didn't get this from me." It held gas station security footage across from my lot, showing my house's construction from bare dirt to completion. I sent it to Rachel. "This kills their shack lie," she said. "But they're not done." She was right. An HOA envelope demanded $62,000 for environmental cleanup and resident trauma. Non-payment meant liens and seizure. At 3 a.m., a crash woke me. My truck's windshield was smashed, tires slashed, fraud carved into the hood. Muddy boot prints led to where a black SUV had peeled out. Officer Daniels, the cop who responded, actually listened. "Got proof it's them?" he asked. "I've got a pattern of sabotage," I said. He nodded, promising to investigate. HOA flyers littered my complex by morning, my face plastered with "Squatter threatens community." Rachel arrived, livid. "They're not fighting legally. They're breaking you." I stared at my ruined truck, fists tight. "They're about to learn I don't break." The HOA summoned me to a disciplinary hearing, mandatory despite my non-membership. Rachel advised against going, but I needed to see Linda's lies in person. The Crestview clubhouse was faux elegance, chandeliers over folding chairs. Linda presided, flanked by board members bred for bureaucracy. "Mr. Bennett, we're discussing restitution," she cooed, sliding over a $62,000 invoice. $13,500 for ecological harm, $20,000 for property value loss, $7,000 for emotional distress. I stood, folded the paper, and said, "See you in court." Her eyes flickered with fear, just for a second. Rachel filed a $475,000 civil suit against Linda, Ethan, the HOA, their contractor, and unnamed accomplices, alleging fraud, trespass, demolition without consent, vandalism, and harassment. Channel 9 called for my side. I shared the gas station footage, permits, and truth. The public tide shifted. Reporter Mia Torres met me off-record. "Hilltop Ventures, a developer, is bankrolling Crestview's expansion. Your lot was an obstacle for their luxury project." My house wasn't a nuisance, it was in their way. Rachel uncovered a whistleblower, a retired planner who swore Ethan bypassed legal checks for rezoning. Subpoenaed emails showed Linda's order. Parcel 52C must disappear. Nate found a GoPro with time-lapse footage of the build, undeniable proof. The HOA offered $90,000 to settle with an NDA. I told Rachel to tell them where to stick it. Courtroom 7 was a pressure cooker. Locals, reporters, HOA loyalists packed the seats. Linda sat in a stiff suit, Ethan sweating beside her. Rachel was calm, her tapping foot betraying her fire. We opened with the GoPro video. The jury mesmerized as my house rose from nothing. My initials on the garage wall sealed it: no shack, no squatter. Rachel projected falsified zoning maps, Ethan's damning email, and Hilltop's redevelopment plan. Ethan cracked on the stand, admitting he faked records at Linda's behest. Linda played the martyr, claiming she protected Crestview, but Rachel gutted her. "You stood to gain a $50,000 bonus from Hilltop, didn't you?" Linda's silence was deafening. A former HOA member testified they'd rehearsed the shack lie to justify demolition, wanting to teach a lesson. Rachel's closing was surgical. "My client built a home. They stole it, lied, vandalized his life, and thought he'd quit. This was no error, it was theft." The jury deliberated 3 hours. Verdict: guilty on all counts. $475,000 in damages. HOA dissolved. Linda and Ethan referred for criminal fraud and conspiracy. The judge's words burned. This is a shameful abuse of power masquerading as governance. I didn't celebrate, I exhaled. A year later, I stood on my new deck, grill smoking, friends laughing. The house was smaller, no HOA in sight. I'd sold the old lot to a nature preserve, wildflowers now, not condos. Linda faced jail, Ethan took a plea. Crestview's assets were liquidated. Rachel and I started Shield Haven, a nonprofit aiding HOA victims. Letters poured in from others who'd fought and won because I hadn't folded. At the barbecue, my neighbor Tom raised his burger. To no Lindis, I clinked my beer. To no fences. The sun sank, the grill hissed, and I was home. Not just in a house, but in a life I'd reclaimed.